What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Victorious Podcast, where we help people like you elevate their standards of life. I'm your host, Nick Santanastasso, and the gentleman that I have to the left of me is not only a dear friend of mine and a student of the game, but this man is a best-selling author. He's an entrepreneur, and he's a transformational leader in a lot of people's lives, and he's doing some great work. And we're going to give you a little appetizer of who my man is. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Damon Nichols. Give me
How you
some.
doing?
How we doing?
Doing awesome, man.
Thanks for coming on here.
Well, thanks, man.
You
It's
got
great
it.
to be here.
So you got a lot of knowledge to give and a lot of gold to give, and you weren't always this version of Damon, right? And so could you give a little snapshot of an origin of like some of the stuff that you went through and what catapulted you into becoming this great version of yourself?
Okay, yeah. So I spent a lot of my adult life in trouble. I was addicted to some substance or another, and I just kept going, repeating these same cycles of life: addiction, get clean for a while, addiction, trouble, jail, prison. It just was a constant pattern. And I had just finally got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. I was in my mid-40s, and I had to make a change. And once I started deciding that I wanted to make that change, I had to learn something that I hadn't ever learned before, because nothing that I'd done worked for me. Every time I would get clean for a little while, and then I would, it would slowly start creeping back in. And what I realized was I had never really worked on myself and started doing deep work, going back to the child that was hurt, that at that point I became angry and resentful, and I never healed from that point.
Yeah.
So I see so many people walking around like that. Once I cleared that and I started becoming successful and I built a business, I also realized how far down I was and what kind of person I had become. And I knew that I could relate to people like that and show them that no matter where you're at in life, there's always a chance, and you always have a second chance, and you can always become more than you ever thought possible.
So good. So give us some context or contrast, right? So it's like years of sober, not sober. We talked about the theme of like burning your external world down. Like, what did that look like? Like, what is Damon going through and all the stuff that he's experiencing? And then when was that first like healing moment or that first like epiphany where you like were starting to change or starting to grow?
So burning things down was easy for me, because I would start to get some kind of success, or I would start to what I would thought was success, and then I would self-sabotage, because I always had this belief system of I can't have anything. I was poor. I don't deserve. And then it just kept reinstilling that same thing in my mind every time I would go to jail, get clean, and then here it is. Oh, I'm not worthy of having this. So then it would start the whole cycle, and every time it got worse and worse and worse. But then the epiphany came once I was showed things that I never knew. And that
Give me an example. What was something that you were shown that you were like, whoa?
Well, that once you get around people that want to lift you up and want to see you grow, then it kind of changes your perspective on things. Because all of the groups of people that I used to hang out with, they were always, if you started to get better or do better, they would bust you down. If you made more money, or if you got a raise, everybody was complaining, well, why did he get this, or I need to get this, or like that was the theme of my life, and that was the people that were in my life.
Wow.
But once I was introduced to a mastermind or to an event like this, it changed everything. It made me look at completely how I viewed the world and how I viewed even people with money, because I had this whole belief system around people that had money itself.
Yeah.
You know. So,
Yeah. Most of our beliefs, right, are cultivated when we were when a child. So like when you talk about feeling not enough or self-sabotaging or feeling not worthy, like when was it? Who taught you that? Typically, we pick it up, right? So what happened during childhood, or what did you experience growing up that made you have that belief system?
Well, I can relate. Most all of the work that I've done has came down to the point of when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and my mom and dad went through this really nasty divorce, and my mom left, and she took me and my brother and ran from my dad for 9 months. And then when my dad finally took us back, I didn't see my mom again for several years.
Wow.
So I had this belief, but I had this abandonment issue because I didn't know all of what was going on, but all I knew is my dad was angry, which he had every right to be, and I know he didn't mean to, but like his anger was projected on me every time I did something wrong. It wasn't even wrong. If I made a mistake or something, I got that anger.
Mm.
And so, like, I was afraid, but I also wanted my mom, and I was like the person. I needed love,
Yeah.
and I couldn't get the love that I wanted
Wow.
because the person that I cared about the most or wanted the love from was not there.
Mm.
So it just made me, like I stopped. I started putting up these walls, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to let anybody love me because the ones that love me are going to leave me.
Wow.
You know,
I just want to dissect this really powerful, is because of the upbringing or the things that you experience, right? We then developed a rule, right? And that rule was, and the meaning was, is like, you know, I can't get love. I'm gonna put up a wall because if someone comes in, they're going to leave, right? And so based off that experience of the mom leaving or dad being angry or whatnot, the rule that you created was, well, if I love someone, then they'll leave me, so I'm just gonna stay guarded. Is that accurate?
Yeah, very accurate.
So how does, if someone listening right now is like, well, Damon, how do I know if I have some blind spots from my childhood? Like, how would they start to discover that? Like, what would something that you could tell them, or an experience that you went through maybe shows them that they have some blind spots or maybe some trauma from childhood?
I guess I'd ask myself, who do I have to be to receive love?
Mm.
As a child, what did I have to do? What were my grades like? How did I have to act in order to receive love? Or how was love showed to me? A lot of us don't even realize. They think that it was good, but once you start breaking that down and like, okay, you weren't showed love in a very loving way. You got, you were, for some people, put on a pedestal or made to have, you had to uphold this certain standard. Yeah. And that can be very hard for a child, but at the time they think, oh, it's love, or, it gets mistaken for that, and they may carry that on for years because they had to be this perfect child, or they had to do this. Or at the same time, I see one kid, like, I know brothers that one of them was overweight and one of them wasn't, and this one, got looked at differently, or their mom would always make remarks toward them, and it always made them feel less than, and they didn't realize that until, or maybe not even ever realize the fact that, those little things are hurtful, and then you start taking on those belief systems. I'm always going to have a problem eating, or I'm always going to be heavy, or I'm whatever, fill in the blank, So we just start putting on these little belief systems, and we start building these belief systems based off of, a lot of it is how our parents treat us. Yeah. And we don't realize, that it may not be, you may seem right on the surface. Yeah. But when you start looking deeper,
So who did you have to be in order to receive love? If I were to spin that question on you.
I had to be responsible. I had to make sure that everything was taken care of. I grew up on a farm. I had to make sure animals were taken care of and fed. And if I left the water on and the trough spilled over, then like I got some severe consequences for that. So it was fear, but I also, I tried to stand out in any way I could, because the only person that I really got love or was shown love was my dad, because he was there. I didn't have anybody else in my life. It was me and my brother and my dad. So my dad showed me love in the best way that he knew how. And I had to fulfill a role of basically another parent. I had to help take care of my brother. And once I didn't have that anymore, I'm like, oh, I'm free of this. I don't want this responsibility. Like, I had responsibility put on me that, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And really shouldn't have had to have as a child.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to take care of a younger brother. But a lot of people do. Like,
yeah.
I see that in a lot of single parent families where an older sibling is given all the responsibility to take care of other siblings, and that also creates that's a trauma effect that you carry later on in life.
Yeah.
And that was a big one for me.
Yeah, that's so good. What do you think holds people back from doing the deep work, right? Because if we look at your story, you didn't even realize the root cause of the drugs or the addiction was the healing that you've done. So what do you think holds people back?
A lot of times they don't even know. They don't even realize that that's the core problem or core cause, or they're afraid to look at themselves. A lot of people don't want to look at themselves. And it's real easy to, when you have this mindset of, well, it's your fault, this, or I'm going to do this because of, like that. I see a lot of that too, and just not really taking accountability. When you can say, what part did I have in that, no matter what the situation is?
Yeah.
And that's hard to look and say, no matter what the situation is, because you play a part, no matter what.
Yeah.
And you start really looking at that, and when you can completely take the blame off of anybody else, because I had to do that in a relationship with my wife, because we went through these cycles of, well, she did this, so this, or she said this to me and it offended me, so I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to, whatever. But it was all blame.
Yeah.
When I had to stop and be like, okay, she's acting like this, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Like, I need to change what I'm doing.
Mm.
And once I started making those changes and only caring about what I was doing and how I was reacting, and being 100% accountable for that, no matter what was coming at me from the outside, how am I going to react to that?
Yeah,
So
that's so good. And with the result of the work that you've done, and you continuously do work, what can people expect after they do the healing? What does that life look like for Damon now?
Constant work.
Yeah.
Constant work and continuing just healing, the healing process, and trying to become better all the time at every little aspect, but taking it one step farther and being able to show people and help people and guide people through that. Same thing. Some of the key elements in life, I think one real big one is I was taught, somebody showed me an exercise which taught me how to look at my younger self when I was 5, 6 years old, as if I were the parent to that person. And when I found a picture of myself when I was 5 years old, and I looked at that person, and I looked at him like my son. I'm like, why would I want to continue to punish my son? Like, it was a big change for me.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to help people recognize and maybe find some little aha moment that makes them decide that, wow, I really need to change something.
Yeah. So after the healing, or after you continuously do work on yourself, I'm saying, what does life look like now for you? You better relationship? Like what is
Oh
all
yes,
that stuff?
yeah. So like I've become successful in a business. I have a few different businesses. My wife is my best friend, my partner. We do everything together. We're inseparable, and it's such a great experience. I I don't carry the guilt that I used to carry, the shame, and I have confidence that I've never had before, and it's just it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going through life in a win.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So why is it important for people to make the change now rather than waiting? You know, sometimes people are like, "Oh, I just want to wait till the perfect time," or like, what do you think about that? Like, why is it important for people to start doing the work now rather than delaying it?
Well, now is always a good time. Now
Yeah.
is always the best time to
Yeah.
start. You know, it's not tomorrow or not any day because you never know when it will become too late. Like,
Mm.
you know, one day I was riding in a car, driving in my car with my fiance and my kids, and in a blink of an eye, everything that I wish I could have done or wanted to do, I never had that chance anymore. You just never know when you'll never have that chance. You could look over at somebody and the next minute they're gone. Like
Mm.
that chance that you had, you know, you have right now. If you start right now, you won't regret it.
Yeah.
You know, if you wait till tomorrow, there may not be a tomorrow.
Yeah. So, where can people find more of you?
So I have a website. It's damonnichols.com, and on there I have a book. It's called The Breakout Blueprint. And I'm also on Instagram, Damon R. Nichols, and Facebook and LinkedIn.
Awesome.
So
And so what we'll do is we'll put all of Damon's information below and website, all of that great stuff, and understanding that I wanted to add to this, the healing that you do changes the bloodline as well.
right.
Right? And now, like, you don't need to trickle down that stuff to potentially your offspring, right? It's like we are the lineage leaders, right? We're the ones that change the bloodline. We're the ones that do the healing. And it's one thing if you're born into trauma. It's one thing if you're born into a negative mindset or poverty mindset. But it's another thing that if you die with the same mindset, right?
Yes.
And so our goal is to upgrade our psychology to do the work. And I love your story because you were the underdog, right? Damon was the underdog coming from where he's from. It's like, you know, you don't have models to model. You don't have people that have successful maybe relationships or not building things or maybe they're not healing. Like you're in this place where people are just doing small-minded things and you were able to break the mold and to show people what it's truly capable of, you know, like beating addiction. By the way, that's another win, right? Sober. How long you been sober?
Well, going on 9 years now.
9 years, right?
Yeah.
Another massive win.
And
So
not just like I completely quit. Like I cut everything out of my life that's not serving me.
Yeah.
You know, so sobriety came at a pretty high level for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's because I hear people like, "Oh, I'm sober now." Well, they still smoke weed.
Yeah.
Or they got off the hard drugs, but they'll still drink.
Yeah.
Like that's not sober. That's trading addiction.
Yeah.
So,
So I just want to acknowledge you because all the chains and all the molds that you've broken and you can continuously do the work and all the work that you're doing yourself you're able to trickle on to others and you know that's what you're passionate about is right helping other people identify their blind spots within
Right.
that childhood so they can heal that parts of them and they can become the greatest man or the greatest woman or the greatest version of the self. And so thank you for the work that you do and the lives that you're changing. We'll put all of his information below. And this is a little appetizer. We'll have to schedule another time to go way deeper because there's a lot to
Yeah.
cover. And we will see you in the next episode.